All right. Hello. How's it going, Daryl? Hope you're doing well today. We are going to go ahead and get started here with the functional fitness and guided breathing class. Happy Friday. Hope you're having a great week so far and ready to finish things out on a high note. Okay, so we're going to go through our general warm-up here, which is going to be our cat-cow, our shoulder retraction, and glute bridges. So really kind of working through the trunk and the shoulders and the hips, getting everything kind of working together, moving nice and even there. And then we're going to go through our workout, which is going to start with our legs with the single leg RDL, go into some air squats. Then we're going to work our way back up to the shoulders, doing shoulder taps and push-ups, working on the front of the shoulder, and then doing some posterior shoulder work as well, working through our IYTs and our prone overhead press. Then we're going to get into plank rotations and leg raises to finish out with some core work as well, getting everything locked in, working together once we kind of work through the individual aspects of it all. Then we're going to finish with our cool down. We have a 90-90 arm sweep to stretch out the hips and get some arm mobility as well. And then getting our seated knee hug to work into our guided breathing as well. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into our cat-cow here. So hands and knees down on the ground, getting our hands directly below the shoulders. We're just going to pull the spine up towards the ceiling, hollowing out the trunk and the stomach, bringing that belly button up to the spine and sinking back down, dropping the belly button to the floor, curling the head up, chin towards the ceiling, and just moving back and forth. Really getting that spine working, moving, and mobilizing together. Everything all at once now. Couple more times through. And relaxing out. Okay, good. Next up, we have our shoulder retraction. So you can sit down, sit on your knees, or stand up for this one, but we're going to get our hands out in front of us, both arms locked out, like we're in a Wild West shootout, staring down the barrel of a gun. And from here, we're going to pretend there's an orange in the middle of our back. Squeeze that orange with our shoulder blades and relax forward, pushing the hands away from the chest. As you pull through here, you want to try and keep the shoulders on the same plane, right? So they're not falling too far down or creeping up as we pull high, but keeping everything nice and low, squeezing through the middle of the back and relaxing through the middle of the chest. A few more times through. And relax. All right, next up, we've got our glute bridges. So we're going to lay flat on our back, getting our feet flat on the floor. And we're going to drive our hips up into the air, creating a nice straight line from the shoulder through the hips to the knee, driving through our heels, really getting those hips up into the ceiling. And slowly, evenly lowering down, getting that back flat, tapping down and coming back up. Really raising those hips up as high as they'll go, pushing them straight up towards the ceiling, driving through the heels, And lowering back down, lower, lower, getting a tap on the ground and popping back up for our last one. Lowering down, nice and slow, even, and relax. All right. Next up, we're going to start our workout. First thing we're going to do is that single leg RDL. So you can do two variations of this. One of them is the kickstand, where you're using a bent knee to help support your weight a little bit. The other one is the raised leg single leg RDL, and you might want to start by using something to help balance your weight a little bit, but you're going to do that same hip hinge. You're just going to bring that leg back and behind instead of having that kickstand supporting and you're hinging down like this, reaching into that hamstring. Now you're letting that foot come up as the shoulders come down. So you make a nice capital T shape with your body, extending that leg back and behind. Very good. Couple more on each leg. And switch. With the kicking the leg back, you want to try and balance as much as you can on that foot. So just providing slight touch through that support there. And good. Next up, we've got our air squats. So getting into an air squat position, we're going to have our feet about hip width apart and driving the hips back, lowering the body down, keeping that weight over the midpoint of the foot. We're squatting down, keeping our chest nice and proud, sucking that belly button into the spine, getting our hips down to parallel and coming back up. Nice even pace. Pressing straight up through the midpoint of the foot. Couple more. And rest. Good. Next up, we've got our shoulder taps. So coming back down to our mat, we're going to get our hands directly below the shoulder and getting our hands and feet back. Hands and feet back. We're going to extend out and alternate shoulder to hand, hand to shoulder, switching back and forth, popping to each side. Sucking that belly button up to the spine, keeping our torso nice and stable, trying to limit the amount of shift you've got from side to side. And rest. Nice job. Next up, we're going to do our push-ups. So here, we're going to start with our hands just outside shoulder width. So as we lower ourselves down, we want those hands to be right outside the chest. So starting here and bringing the hands down from there. You can either stay on your knees for this or bring your feet back. Me personally, I'm going to stay on my knees, get a little bit more focus in the chest. So here, we're going to fold the elbows back, lower the chest down, keeping those elbows pinned to the ribs and pressing straight back up. You want to keep those shoulders away from the ears, pinned back nice and low as we press through. Lowering the body down to a nice level position and pressing straight back up. Nice rigid torso with that belly button sucked up to the spine. Getting full press through the chest here. A couple more. And finish. All right. Next up, we've got our IYTs. So we're going to get our hands out in front, positioned straight in front of the shoulders. Straight in front of the shoulders. Sorry, gotta get my timer to stop shutting off on me. Hands straight out in front of the shoulders, extended out forward, and we're popping up for our I, holding up at the top, and lowering down, extending out to a 45 for our Y, sliding up, holding up at the top, keeping those shoulders pulled down, lowering back down, and going out wide for the T's. Really squeezing that back, getting that orange juice squeezed out of the orange, metaphorically taped to our back, and lowering down, extending out forward again, and coming up, and lowering down, coming out for those 45s, the Ys, and lowering down, and out for the T. And lowering down. Nice job. Next up, we have our plank rotations. So getting our hands directly below the shoulder, feet and knees come back. From here, we're going to rotate up, twisting the hand up to the ceiling, opening our chest up to our side, coming down, rotating onto the other hand, finding that stability, and moving back down, rotating up, holding, and back down. Finding that stability on one arm, building that single arm strength. And a couple more. And rest. Nice job. Next up, finishing up the circuit, we've got our leg raises. So laying flat on our back, getting our hands underneath the hips, we're going to extend the feet out and pulling our back down into the ground. So almost tucking our hips forward, we're going to swing those feet up into the air, keeping our hips still on the ground and slowly lowering back down. Feeling that heel tap. And pulling those knees up to the chest. Imagining that your feet are like your legs are like a drawbridge, right? And you're slowly lowering the drawbridge down and pulling it back up. You've got like ropes connected to your knees that you can just pull straight up. And slowly lower back down. Couple more. And finished. Good. All right. One time through. Now we're getting back to that single leg RDL up at the top. 50% of the way through that hard work. So again, you can either do the kickstand variation, leaning forward, driving the hips backwards, right? So I'm driving my hips back, my chest is going to naturally lower, and I come back up, keeping one leg straight and planted into the ground. You can also bring that back leg up and not kick your mirror, but swinging that back leg up, using something to balance, or if you can, doing it completely on your own. Go ahead and switch legs, whichever variant you're doing. Maybe try both on a couple of them, but the most important thing is keeping that torso nice and long as we move here. I'm not just lowering my chest down by rounding out my back, but really pushing those hips back and keeping my torso tall. All right, very good. Next up, we've got our air squats. So getting feet hip width apart. We're gonna drive those hips back just like we were. And now we're adding the knee bend, lowering those hips down as they come back, keeping the weight over the midpoint of the foot and driving back up. Getting nice, even press through the feet, keeping that chest nice and proud. Keep it up here, a couple more seconds on these. Few more. And done. Good. Next up, we have our shoulder taps. So dropping down to the ground, getting our hands underneath the shoulders. We're popping those feet back, knees up, and alternating hand to shoulder. Tapping nice and even, back and forth. Focusing on locking that torso in. Sucking the belly button up to the spine. Moving back and forth. Couple more seconds here, keep it up. Almost there, and rest. Very good. From here, we're hopping into our push-ups. So lowering down, you want those hands to be right next to the outside of the chest. Starting a little bit wide and lowering that chest down, keeping the elbows pinned to the ribs and pressing back up. Driving straight up, keeping that belly button sucked into the spine, shoulders nice and low, elbows tucked into the ribs. Couple more, and done. Good. Next up, we have those IYTs. Okay, hands forward, extended out in front. We're gonna point those thumbs up to the ceiling and pulling up towards the ceiling. We're gonna hold up at the top in that I shape, squeezing that orange together through the back. Lowering down, popping out for Ys. Popping the hands up. Keeping those thumbs pointed upward. Holding up at the top and lowering down. Hands come out wide for the Y or for the T. Popping those thumbs up. Holding up at the top. Getting those thumbs upward and lowering down. Extending the hands back out front, raising up, holding up at the top, and lowering down. Hands come out wide, thumbs pointed up, and raising the hands up, holding, and dropping down. Hands come out to the side, thumbs up, and pulling up. Holding and dropping down. Good. Next up, we have those plank rotations. Getting our hands underneath the shoulder, popping those feet back and extending our hands up to the ceiling, rotating, opening up that chest, holding and coming back down, twisting, rotating up, getting our feet nice and wide and stable, alternating between each side. Getting good strength through our shoulders and hands here. Getting nice and stable through the shoulder joint. Really trying to find that midpoint. You're not too far forward in that shoulder, not falling back at all either. Couple more here. Holding up at the top, pressing that ground away. And done. Good. Next up, last one, we've got our leg raises. So getting the feet extended out, flat on our back. We're gonna get the hands underneath the hips and swing the feet up. Lowering them back down. Nice and easy. Tapping the heel down and coming back up. Lowering back down. Nice and easy. Sweeping up, going at an even pace. Getting nice and in control. Pulling that drawbridge and lowering it back down. Swinging back and forth. Nice, even pace. Couple more. And done. Very good. Nice job. Way to finish out. We've got a few more minutes here. So we're going to go through our cool down and guided breathing. All right. So the first stretch we've got in our cool down is the 90-90 arm sweep. So what we're going to do is lay down on our side. We're going to bend one knee out in front of us, right? Like this. And we're going to bend the other knee back. So back behind us. So if you're laying on your side still, it's going to look like this, right? You're going to be in almost like a 90-90 lunge. And then you're going to bring your hands out in front. You're going to reach your top hand out forward and sweep up with the top hand rotating around. So now you're twisting through the hips, opening up the shoulders, and you're laying on the ground in a big twisted stretch. So if I'm laying on the ground, it'll look like this. I've got my knee up, hands out. I reach out and sweep up. And now my hand is open. I'm keeping that forward knee on the ground, and I'm trying to drop that shoulder down to the ground. As far as it'll go, twisting through that lumbar spine there. Taking deep breaths in. And exhaling out, really trying to drop that shoulder down to the ground. Even pace breath. And rolling out, bringing the hips back to center and rotating onto the other side. Getting that knee bent out in front of the hips. Hands come out, reaching that top hand out forward and sweeping up and around. Dropping that shoulder down to the ground. Trying to stretch out that lower back and the hips there. Nice, deep breathing. All right, and coming back to center. We're gonna extend the legs out. After all that rotation, I like to give a quick just forward fold to help stretch out that lower back, get everything kind of on that same line again. Try to drop that chest down to the knees. And we're gonna bring one knee up and over. So bending one knee up, bringing it over the knee. And now we're gonna go into that knee hug. So just hugging the knee to chest, taking deep breaths in and exhaling out. Big, long exhales. Deep breath in. And exhale out. Another deep breath in. And exhale out. Go ahead, extend the leg back out. Switching legs, bending your other knee. Bring that foot over the knee and hugging knee to chest. Deep breath in and exhale out. Deep breath in and exhale out. Deep breath in and exhale out. All right. Very good. Thank you so much for coming in today. Good to see you guys as always. Don't forget, if you're interested in our Design to Run training program, we are signing up this next week and following week. Our program starts on the 28th and will run through the end of May. Gonna host a 5K and a 10K race. So we've got 2 different training programs for both of those distances based off of strength, cardio, and mobility. So go ahead, check that out. We've got a ton of information on it on our SharePoint. It's been going to send out in the newsletter next week as well. But go ahead and give that a shout. As always, check out our YouTube channels and stay up to date with the latest classes. All right. Thanks so much for coming in, Daryl.
Thanks, Quinn.